The story begins by showing a train station where a man who works as a conductor has just finished his shift. Eagerly, he heads to the locker room, anxiously awaiting some happy news. Unfortunately, reality sometimes does not match our dreams. His request for a promotion was denied, as he lost out to another employee named David, who isn't even better than him. To make matters worse, David approaches him in the midst of his frustration, demanding that he take on an extra shift because someone else is unavailable. Of course, he refuses the task as he is already exhausted, but David brings up all his past mistakes and adds insults, forcing the man to accept the shift. Despite being forced, the man, whose name is Joe, carries out his duties with a smile. He starts checking the tickets of the passengers one by one and does his best to help an elderly woman who accidentally dropped her cane and was startled by a small dog. Though Joe is not particularly fond of dogs. Next, Joe approaches a woman named Kate who looks panicked because she can't find her ticket. After she claims to have lost it, Joe explains the fine she needs to pay. At the same time, Joe crosses paths with a young man named Billy who is changing his clothes for comfort. The scene also shows the train's broken toilet, and Joe then bumps into a female colleague named Ellen. Joe has had feelings for Ellen for a long time and really wants to ask her out on a date. Unfortunately, when he finally musters the courage to ask, Ellen rejects him, and this moment is witnessed by a passenger, making the situation awkward. A few hours later, as the train continues to move calmly under the full moon, a few passengers disembark at each stop. Now, only a handful remain, intending to get off at the final station. As the train passes through a forest, a loud screech suddenly echoes and the train's speed slows until it finally stops. Joe begins walking from one car to another to find out what happened. He briefly sees a shadow behind a door, but just as he approaches, he is startled by the loudspeaker. The conductor announces that the train has hit something and asks passengers to remain calm until the issue is resolved. Joe then moves to another car and finds Ellen, who has fallen with her trolley. He tries to help, but a passenger named Adrian steps in first. Joe quietly steps back and returns 2 keys to Adrian, which seems quite odd. Many passengers start to panic, so Joe does his best to calm them down. He tries to contact the conductor, Tony, via radio, but gets no response. Therefore, Joe announces to the passengers that there has been an accident and asks for their patience. Meanwhile, Tony has left the driver's seat to check what caused the train to stop. It turns out the train hit a deer, which is now stuck in the wheels. As Tony tries to pull the animal out, he is suddenly attacked by an unknown creature. Tony's blood splatters onto the window, which the passengers should have seen, but rain quickly washes it away, so they only feel a slight jolt. Inside the train, feeling restless, Joe uses his keys to enter the control room, but finds no one there. He looks outside and sees nothing unusual. After asking Ellen to calm the passengers with some sweet treats, Joe continues to inspect the surroundings carefully, but the result remains the same. Following procedure, Joe contacts headquarters to explain what happened and request a rescue team. Headquarters agrees but informs him that due to the storm causing accidents everywhere, they and the passengers will need to wait for approximately 4 hours. This news makes the already panicked passengers even more furious, especially when they learn that the conductor is missing. Amidst the protests and complaints, Adrian's shout silences everyone as he reports no signal on their phones and suggests traveling to the next station for help. As a rule-abiding officer, Joe explains that this is very dangerous and that he cannot allow it because he doesn't want to lose his job. Unfortunately, the passengers, including fellow train officer Ellen, unite in their decision. With no other choice, Joe opens the door and leads the group walking beside the train along the tracks, unaware that something is lurking in the darkness. Continuing the journey, Joe senses something approaching and decides to investigate with Ellen. Shockingly, they discover Tony's body in a horrific state behind some bushes. The 2 officers quickly return and urge the passengers to take shelter in the train. At the same time, the distant sounds of howls and growls make the situation even more terrifying. It takes a few seconds for Joe to open the carriage door, and everyone rushes in out of fear, almost leaving behind the elderly couple, Ged and Jenny. Sadly, Jenny's leg gets severely injured. Eventually, the group manages to pull Jenny inside and immediately tend to her wound as best as they can. Billy and Matt try to check outside using a flashlight. Initially, they see nothing, but when they check the door to ensure it's locked, a mysterious creature suddenly slams into the carriage, growling. They also hear the sound of claws scratching the carriage, causing the passengers to agree to stay silent until the howling moves away from the train. Soon after, Joe heads to the control room to try using the communication equipment, but it is now non-functional. At the same time, Billy approaches and reveals that he is a mechanical engineering student. After inspecting the control room, Billy predicts that there has been a fuel leak, likely caused by the collision. If they don't fix it soon, they won't be able to leave the area. Outside, they can see a damaged antenna, possibly caused by the mysterious creature. Joe tries to explain the situation to the passengers, who begin discussing what kind of creature or animal attacked them. Adrian assumes it's a bear, but Nina reminds him that bears don't howl, while Jenny, who caught a glimpse of it, believes it looked more like a man. No one can be sure what the creature is. Suddenly, they hear a noise from another carriage. Fearing the mysterious monster has broken in, Joe arms himself with a fire extinguisher and, along with Billy and Adrian, investigates the source of the sound. They cautiously step forward and discover that the noise is coming from the toilet, where a passenger named Paul has been trapped since before the accident. The four of them return to the group, and Paul listens to the explanation of what happened. Instead of panicking, Paul feels sad about missing his stop. A while later, they check on Jenny and realize her wound is getting worse, and now she has a high fever. Seeing Nina scared, Kate approaches her and shares a story about her daughter. Suddenly, the mysterious creature slams into the train again and even jumps onto the roof, causing the train lights to start flickering. At the same time, Nina's phone rings as it gets a signal. She quickly answers the call from her mother. Unfortunately, while trying to ask for help, the creature breaks through the window and drags Nina out. They all hear the creature tearing Nina apart on the carriage roof and see blood through the window. Terrified, the group rushes to another carriage. In the chaos, Kate loses control and starts raging, angry that no one tried to save Nina. A heated argument ensues until Ged shouts for everyone to be quiet and reminds them that to survive, they must work together. They realize the train has a toolbox, so they start working together to barricade every entrance to the carriage using parts of the train itself, such as seats and metal bars. Sometime later, everyone appears increasingly depressed. Jenny and Ged talk about the unfortunate girl, regretting that they left Nina alone all this time. Jenny admits that she and Ged don't have children, so they can't fully understand the situation. Meanwhile, Joe is approached by Adrian, who explains why he has two keys. He confesses that he has two nice residences, one for his family and one for his mistress. He believes that having both is essential, including for the plan he's about to reveal. Adrian outlines a plan for survival that requires Joe's help, escaping by leaving the weaker passengers as bait. Before Joe can respond, Jenny suddenly vomits blood and her teeth fall out. Another debate erupts about what to do, but Joe stops it by realizing that one of them, Paul, is missing. As they prepare to remove the barricade, Joe and Billy ask Adrian to stay calm and give Joe a chance to enter alone, while Adrian and Billy guard the door. Joe quickly heads to the toilet and finds Paul, who complains of stomach pain and is trapped again. Unfortunately, Joe can't save him this time. Simultaneously, the mysterious creature attacks, killing Paul. Adrian, hearing the growls, decides to abandon the train to save himself but can't get out because Joe has the keys. Back to Joe, who is still pushing against the door while watching the mysterious creature slowly approach. At the last moment, the door opens, and Joe is pulled in by another passenger. While they pile up objects to block the door, Adrian tries to break a window. In the midst of the panic, the monster breaks in, causing Ellen to freeze in fear. Fortunately, Joe acts quickly, and everyone works together to fight back. Matt's brutal assault on the monster is stopped by Kate, as the creature appears to be dead and no longer a threat. A few moments later, the group examines the creature closely and finds a ring on its finger. This confirms what Jenny previously said, that the creature closely resembles a human, or perhaps it once was human. Matt concludes that the creature is a werewolf. Whether it's due to magic or a disease-induced mutation, Adrian believes that anyone bitten by the creature will also turn into one. Everyone now looks at Jenny, whose condition is worsening. While they cover the werewolf's body, Ged recounts a story from years ago about a similar accident in the same area. Investigations revealed many missing passengers and mutilated bodies, but the cause was never explained. Ged concludes that it was the work of a werewolf. Suddenly, the supposedly dead werewolf revives and howls, enraging Joe, who brutally beats the creature. Meanwhile, another werewolf in the forest hears the howl and starts moving. At the same time, Jenny, who also hears the howl, begins to show strange reactions. Seeing this, Adrian takes the initiative to kill the elderly woman before she fully transforms, but Ged intervenes, and they fight, with Adrian almost killing Jenny. The group eventually agrees to Joe's plan to tie up Adrian and Jenny with belts. They then plan to restart the train with Billy's help. Billy explains to Ellen how to use the controls once the engine is back on. Meanwhile, Joe announces to the other passengers to hold on and hope that they will survive. Next, Billy goes under the train with Matt, who holds an axe as a guard. The scene shifts to the carriage where Kate reveals that she and Adrian had a brief affair in the past, expressing how much of a jerk Adrian is, though he doesn't seem to remember. Meanwhile, Jenny has another breathing attack, causing Adrian to panic and beg to be untied before it's too late. Back with Billy and Matt, they hear noises from the forest. Matt bravely decides to investigate, leaving Billy without the flashlight. In the forest, Matt hears Nina's cries for help and follows the sound. He is horrified to find Nina in a gruesome state, being eaten alive by a werewolf. Matt tries to flee but finds it nearly impossible. Everyone hears Matt's screams followed by a long howl, which causes Jenny to react again, increasing Adrian's fear and pleas to be untied. Billy finally manages to fix the train, indicated by the lights coming back on. At the same time, the werewolves approach the train and start inspecting underneath. Fortunately, Billy cleverly hides until the monsters leave. However, Ellen accidentally turns on a light, revealing the monsters. In a panic, Ellen starts the train, causing it to move, leaving Billy with no choice but to hang on underneath to avoid being left behind. The situation inside the carriage becomes increasingly chaotic, especially as Jenny is almost fully transformed into a werewolf. Kate unties Adrian, and shortly after, Jenny breaks free with her newfound strength. Now a ferocious werewolf, Jenny attacks her own husband first. Amidst the chaos, other werewolves also appear. Back to Billy, who is still holding on. He accidentally breaks the fuel line, causing the train to stop again. Joe rushes out of the control room, performing an epic action to take down Jenny and save Adrian. Despite this, Adrian deserves punishment for speaking disrespectfully and insulting Jenny. This fight gives the werewolves a chance to break in. Realizing he has a better chance, Adrian uses Joe as bait by beating him down. However, Joe quickly gets up and fights back. While the men are fighting, Ellen uses a sharp metal piece to attack Adrian. As Ellen checks on Joe, Adrian takes the keys to unlock the door and jumps out of the window. Now only Joe and Ellen are left, surrounded by several werewolves. At the last moment, Billy arrives with a torch and Molotov cocktails, successfully driving the monsters away and saving Joe and Ellen, unaware that it would be his last moment. Shortly after, Joe and Ellen are seen running through the forest, with the howls of werewolves continually terrorizing them. Realizing they both can't survive, Joe decides to stop, saying a final goodbye and urging Ellen to run. The film concludes with Ellen making it back to the station, tears streaming down her face, clutching Joe's name tag in her hand. It also shows the cunning Adrian still running aimlessly. He finds some clothes and thinks Joe is nearby. Soon after, The werewolves surround him but do not attack, giving the new member a chance, and the movie ends. And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.